Alright, another draft physics video presentation. Comments and such, and see where it goes. Leave it open. Yeah, see what happens. See what is pre-triggered, ready to go off kind of thing. Blah, 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 blah. So anyway, royal nerve. I don't know what this means, but whatever. Why don't you travel and meet? I don't do travels and meets. So, and it's the internet age. Newsflash. You shouldn't have to travel and meet anything, anybody, anywhere, anytime. Frankly, the virtual thing is just as good. And it's not even virtual, really, right? I mean, you virtually connect into the same space. Okay, the space is virtual, but the people aren't. You know, the conversation doesn't have to be. We've had phones for a long time and recording devices for a long time, and that's pretty much all you need. Anyway, he gladly invites you in, and you can bring your own instruments. So Gerald Murrin is somehow supposed to be whatever. So we'll play some of his video later, maybe, just because it's kind of funny. But anyway. Your own instruments and take measurements of his project. So he's one of these free energy loop-de-doos who keeps, you know, pretending they use the word resonance as if they understand the concept at all, you know, and they really don't. And it's, you know, well, whatever. Maybe we'll do some on that. Measurements of his projects. Only rule is if you visits him, is that you come, everything is going to get recorded. He doesn't record everything, so I mean, you know, so there's just more. Yeah, so what? Like everything, what? Like the fact that there's nothing to see here will get recorded. Great. Without editing the recordings, yes. And who are you saying this to? Is there any evidence I edit anything? No. Oh, you're just amazingly stupid people. Just go and fucking meet him. Why? Again, he can't articulate his theory in some sort of form that can be responded to in a video exchange of some kind. Blah, 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 blah. No one dares to do so, whatever that means. Clearly, everybody seems quite afraid of confrontation. They think they can just, it's all out and nothing in. And that's just all over the place. Like the trolls, for example. I mean, I ask simple questions. They never answer any of my questions. None. Ever. Anyway, would be interesting to see you see the unedited recordings of the meeting. So again, this unedited thing. Where's the editing being the problem? You want to show me where editing is the problem? No, the content sucks. It's not editing that sucks. But show respect and kindly disagree. Well, kindly disagreeing is a little bit difficult in most cases, frankly. So if you can go find that somewhere where there's any kind of meaningful subject to be had, then show me. But I don't see any of this kindly disagreeing happening anywhere. I hear conspiracy theories, especially from the free energy folks. They're hardly kindly disagreeing with anybody. If you disagree with anything you see or measure yourself, kindly disagree. So again, this kindly, who's doing that? Are they kindly disagreeing with the establishment when they make all kinds of accusations about all kinds of conspiracies and all kinds of, they're thwarting me with their, I'm going to get killed if I say this. I mean, all this preposterous exaggerations. Ugh, anyway, so just mush, frankly. But, you know, like I said, I'll show the guy anyway. But, yeah, no, he's just a tinfoil hat kook. Sadly. It's just what it is. I mean, you know, a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. And people just demonstrate all over the place. All right. DraftScience, maybe. What is this? DraftScience, maybe the, I don't know what it is. Rarity of the new neuron development on Earth has something to do with the early chemical environment. And so this, again, retarded. You really don't get the whole concept of evolution, right? Neurons aren't early in the process of evolution. They're very complex cells, not very simple cells. They are like the most complex cell on Earth, maybe. So hardly something that happened poof. It's something that took maybe a billion years of evolution to get to, the capacity to make a neuron. Having something close enough to add a few features to make it a neuron. And obviously its evolution, like most evolution, is unseen to us, in the sense that the organisms that possessed the original form, we don't have any living descendants of those organisms. Because the original neuron was probably a pretty simple cell, and all it really did was the electricity thing at first, and then it became the idea of doing the synapse thing, you know, blah 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 blah. It evolved. Okay, the point is there's no other parallel evolution. Okay, like there's no marsupial version of it. There's no well, you could even go to reptiles and say there's, you know, flying reptiles, birds, for example. There's different things can fly. Squirrels, different things can fly, take advantage of it for different ways and different reasons. Pterodactyls, for example, and stuff like that. So, you know, there should be, if intelligence was something evolution did, there should be some other versions of it, and there aren't. Perhaps some subtle difference on another planet might lead to it being more common there. So again, yes, it's just, you can imagine anything. Okay, I can blame any phenomenon on invisible ducks. I can say invisible ducks did it. It's a theory based on nothing. You know, you're just wishing it's true instead of paying attention to the evidence. The evidence indicates that at best it's rare chemistry. That's the best you can say. It's rare, not common, not simple, not automatic. And yet you want to believe it is. And that's all you're demonstrating, is you want to believe something different than what the facts indicate. Alright, so somebody says, Aero Soap Breeze, whatever that means. Perhaps I list a million other perhapses, and we ponder things with no basis to our death. Yes, exactly. I mean, that's all people seem to want to do, is just make shit up. The whole point of the video is people just pulling this crap out of their ass. They really haven't spent any time really thinking about the process and going through, like writing it down on a piece of paper, or maybe drawing a little simple drawing and saying, oh yeah, how do you make a neuron? You know, what would its evolution look like? They just haven't spent any time thinking about it, and they're just talking out of their ass. And it's a real problem. So I'm just going to delete this. This is mush. There's no facts here. Nothing to demonstrate how neurons are probable in the universe, because there's no evidence that they're probable on Earth. Alright. AB Science. So I did reply to his comment, which was just snarky crap. So that was unfortunate. I thought I was rather disciplined. I mean, I wasn't at all. Hatchet job. I mean, this AB Science guy, like, even, you know, it's good that somebody picks on Ken Wheeler, but he does it in the, you know, cheap shot way, where he takes, you know, clips and then he puts it to music kind of thing, you know, so it's the whole photoshopping kind of desperate arguments, like, why don't you paint a Hitler mustache on him, you know? I mean, it's that tacky, you know, that lowbrow, and yet he's above it all somehow. You know, when he's doing it, you know, just hilarious. So I will read my reactions to his little points. Like I said, I thought my video was fair enough. Of course, we disagree, so I mean, you know, how agreeable to disagree am I supposed to be? But I certainly didn't insult his intelligence or anything like that. I pointed out why. I answered his questions, is what I did. And I thought rather politely in the video, and, you know, in no way asked for this kind of crap. So he said, thanks for confirming my suspicion, apparently a suspicion that I'm a tinfoil hatter or something. And I said, likewise coward, because, yes, I was suspicious that, like most physicists, you're just a coward. Well, like all physicists, frankly. You're a coward, okay? You won't have your physics interrogated. You interrogate. You don't get to be interrogated. You're just the Inquisition, essentially. Your behavior is just silly, in the sense that what these physicists should be doing is saying to the flat earth community, look, put together your best attacks of our physics, okay? Give us your best arguments, and we'll deal with your arguments, your explicit claims you want to make. Now, obviously, some of their claims are going to be really easy to dismiss, like the claim that everybody who's worked for NASA for the last, 50 years is a liar. Yeah, you're not going to get too far with that kind of crap. But anyway, so I was hoping that you would come up with some interesting misunderstandings. So apparently his whole point in an interaction is to say, oh, I hope you're an idiot and a buffoon and you made lots of mistakes so I can make fun of you. Yeah, so I said, I was hoping you had some balls and a little bit of integrity. Like, you kind of understood that, yes, there are things about physics that are attackable, that they are weak. I'd say all of it's fairly weak in the sense you don't have hard evidence for almost anything since Newton. And it's all just a bunch of, theory that, again, anybody can make it up. Duck theories, invisible duck theories, and all of your mechanisms are essentially invisible man, invisible duck theories. Invisible ducks tell stuff where to move. That's your gravity theory. Some invisible geodesic informs the object that you're supposed to move. There's no force involved, no mechanism, no physical mechanism. And likewise for your understanding. You say you understand magnets. If I asked you to draw me a picture of why the magnets do what they do, why they turn and then move into each other or something. If I asked you to draw a picture of where the energy comes from, where the mechanism is that tells things where to go, you can't do it. You come up with something that moves the speed of light, a virtual photon, and it communicates to the thing. It shoots to it, and it says, you must move towards me. That's your theory. Right now, you can't draw a picture of it because it's silly. There's no mechanism. And you call it physics. It's not physics. It's imagination. All right. All right. Create a springboard for fun context to produce an educational video. So essentially saying, oh, I could have made a video where I'd be a pretensive, obnoxious snob and pretend to be so freaking smart and show how you're so inferior. Oh yeah, I didn't give you any of that, did I? No, but you couldn't respond with a single. I made I said there, I draw you an experiment. You asked me, what experiments could you do? Well, I'll point out a couple of experiments that you could do, like the ones you claim you've already done. Like maybe you should do the ones that you claim have already been done, like the detector experiments and the double slit experiment. That your physicists, your icons of your physics, your talking heads keep claiming these experiments were done when they were never done. Oh, you're just such a liar, too. Anyway, so I said propaganda isn't spelled that way, meaning educational videos. He's a propagandist, and that's all he is, and it can be demonstrated because he'll say he knows how something works, and then when you push him on it, he can't answer. I mean, you saw it in his own live room. He says, oh yeah, I know how magnets work, and then he was like, oh, when he got pushed for, well, how about a brief explanation? Said, well, yeah, I can't produce that. All right. All right. But unfortunately that failed. And I said, well, get used to it. I'm going to make you do that a lot. Yes, that's right. You're going to fail. Go ahead. Make a video on how magnets work. Go ahead. Make your video explaining how the magnet works. Draw me the picture of the mechanism that makes the magnet do what it does. Show me your theory in action. And I'll just point out the obvious. Invisible man. Yeah, that's his excuse. He's coming to trial, and that's what he's going to use as an excuse. The invisible man did it. All right. One would expect that someone who claims a theory to be incorrect would be able to demonstrate an understanding of said theory. I clearly demonstrated it. What he clearly didn't demonstrate is how I don't understand it. So he won't quote anything I said that was inaccurate in paraphrasing conventional physics. There won't be any of that. So anyway, your theory is pixies and unicorns with no hard evidence. Just a fact. No hard evidence. Scant little indications. It looks like, it seems like, it's kind of like. And that's all they have. And they won't admit that they've based this whole preposterous nonsense on tiny, 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 tiny little shreds of indication. Nothing like hard evidence. You know, he's big enough to have beaten her up and raped her, so therefore, you know, he did it. I mean, it's that thin. All right. What's to understand but human flat earth gullibility? So, you know, the fact that you people fell for these, you know, silly answers to questions. What causes gravity? Oh, nothing. Space, nothing. You know, it just does it. You know, by magic. But the magic moves at the speed of light, of course. Of course. Use that understanding of the theory to show how it is inadequate. Well, I did demonstrate that right in the video. I pointed out how your theory of radar interference, okay, is completely disconnected from your two-slit kind of version of the experiment, and how you're, first off, providing no mechanism to create your wave functions. The two radar things aren't going through impediments to cause them to become wave functions. So you first have nothing to cause your wave function. I pointed out how it's clearly, you can understand it as simple signal jamming. You know, and that if you do the simple experiment where you just put the two things and you put your thing right in between them, you can see that you're going to get the same thing. You're going to jam the signal when the distances are the same, because the signal, when there's two different signals at a different phase coming in at the same time, your receiver can't receive either station. Just like when two radio signals are on the same frequency, you can't pick up either one. All right. I did just that by explaining that simple jamming perfectly explains the pattern in the radar two sorts experiment. So he just ignored the video. I provided what he asked for, and he just ignored all the content and pretended it's no content. If that isn't coward, what the fuck is it? Anyway, how can you know something is incorrect if you don't understand it? So again, this assumption that somehow he's demonstrated somewhere that I don't understand their theory, when he hasn't quoted anything I said that's incorrect. Okay, you don't understand how a beam splitter works. It's just a fact. No, do you? I asked it as a question. Do you understand how a beam splitter works? So I made a perfectly sensible accusation that a half-silvered beam splitter does not create two equal beams. By their own theory, it's a fact. Okay, because essentially the little bits of mirror create openings. The little openings are essentially small apertures. By Newton's law, the light gets diffracted. So the light that reflects off the little silver bits doesn't diffract. The light that goes in between the little silver bits does diffract. It's clearly not two equal beams. Do you understand that? You know, he couldn't answer the question. I was going to list all the things that you got wrong, but that was too long. So isn't that just too cowardly? So I said, deplorable coward. I mean, you know, what the fuck? You're wrong. You're wrong, completely wrong. But I won't explain how you're wrong. Amazing bullshit. Okay, then I thought that I should list the things you got right, but that was just an empty list. So again, where do you demonstrate any of that? Nowhere. What you demonstrate is you are afraid of the scrutiny you so gleefully impose on others. So these are the same people. They mock other people. They Photoshop them. They do all kinds of buffoonery because they can't make a stand-up integrity argument explaining why, you know, look, bozo, there's no free energy. Look, bozo, the world isn't flat. We've got lots of pictures. It's game over. All you're doing is making noise, you know, in a world that doesn't need noisemakers. We need people who care about the truth, not people who just, you know, for fun, mock it. But that's the best they can do, is to do the same thing, just get into a stupid ad hom war that goes nowhere. All right, not once have I heard you adequately describe any component of current theory correctly. So he's making the same exact accusation he made before. He backs it up with not a single quote, nothing. So anyway, preposterous nonsense. Thanks for more evidence of your willingness to exaggerate. I mean, you know, what part is understanding your theory as a wave function, and that the wave function is really a probability function depending on how you look at the physics? Like, okay, we really don't need the waves, we just need the probabilities. What am I not understanding? Your own physicists have 17 different ways of looking at it. You got one physicist says there's a multiverse and new universes are created, and that fixes their energy problem. You know, and the rest of them say, no, it's Copenhagen. You know, the photon has a capacity to do a little bit of calculus, and it retracts all the other directions it went. You know, it just pretends, I didn't really do that. Okay, I was everywhere, but I really wasn't everywhere. That was just bullshit. How could somebody accurately define your quantum mechanics? You're a physicist. You can't even do it. If I took two physicists and put them in room A and room B, and I did this experiment and I asked them the same questions, they won't give me the same answers. Oh, God, you people are just such frickin' stinkers. All right. I have seen flat earthers demonstrate a better understanding of QM. So, you know, that would be it. Okay, you've made the assertion. I would love to see that. So go ahead and show me the flat earther quotes on QM. Because, see, they exaggerate. You know, they're full of shit. So I'm sure my descriptions of QM are a lot better than theirs. They want QM to be true, by the way. They're looking for a God. And your QM theories are looking more and more like a religion. Frankly, there's absolutely no difference between, you know, frankly, the rhetoric of Sean Carroll and Ken Wheeler. They're essentially believing in the same thing. The magic ether. Like your theory, you are satisfied to leave this unevidenced. So again, you know, he makes a bunch of assertions, demonstrates them with nothing. I did attempt to explain my assertions and why I mean, like I said, I answered his questions, I thought, quite concisely, you know, and thorough enough. And he just ignored it. I beg you to prove it with some real quotes. So again, just quote me misquoting conventional physics' theory. Quote me doing that. But you can't because you're a coward. Okay. So what do I get in reply from him is one of his little emoticons. Some little crookedy thing. You can't even tell what the fuck it is. Some sort of crying, laughy face turned on its side. So that's the best he can do as a counter argument. Wow. Yeah. Ooh, you gotta have a big brain to hit the old emoticon button. Ugh. Pathetic. All right, here's a suggestion. How about you prove AB Science wrong? Well, I could prove he's wrong if he could make a video about what he says is right. But he's too much of a coward to do that. Like I said, go ahead, make the video explaining how magnets work, AB Science. Grow a little bit of balls, okay, and give us your best shot at showing us how you know how it works. And I'll tear it a new asshole. Because it's going to have invisible men in it. Lots of them. Wrong by making a video where you solve the Schrodinger equation. So again, equations aren't there to be solved, okay? I mean, they're a function. You do the functions. Okay? You don't solve the equation, doesn't need to be solved. What's supposed to be solved is the dilemma of the circumstance. The equation is supposed to do the solving. I'm not supposed to solve the equation. Amazing bullshit. For a spherically symmetric potential. Well, why don't you give me something real? Okay, say, what happens when a charge is, whatever, 3 meters from another charge of a certain amount, and what's the effect? And I'll show you there's about 17 different ways you could figure out the right answer. You don't need the Schrodinger equation to answer the question. The Schrodinger equation provides absolutely no new power. Okay, it just shows that you can make other equations more concise, and that's all it demonstrates. And so it sort of has built into it a ton of other equations. Like there's no, go look it up for yourself if you're a little bit. It's an obnoxiously convoluted pile of math, where it has a Hamiltonian in it, it has the wave function in it. These aren't real things, okay? These are symbols representing a whole nother equation you have to do ahead of time. And the wave function one's hilarious just because that's the one that already has the answer in it. That's the one that tells you that there's 12 sides to the dice, okay? You know, if you're rolling 2 dice, that there's 12 faces, okay? And you know, so it gives you the answer already, and then it asks the question, what's the likelihood of these 2 faces showing up? And that's all it does, okay? It essentially, once you've solved the wave function part of the equation, you're already done with the equation, but you already know the outcome. That's how pitiful this is, and that's why Feynman summed it up. That's why, you know, Feynman doesn't do Schrodinger's wave equation. That's not how he solves it. He solves it by recognizing it's just a timed equation, right? And it's like the face of a clock. And once you know that there's certain probabilities are all equal, that is, it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock are all the same distance from each other, then you can just sit there and run the clock. You can say, well, if it's this much time, where does the clock end up? Oh, at number 4. Oh, okay, so there's a 4% probability at that time, right? So it's like the thicknesses of glass. You want to find out the reflective index at a certain thickness. Well, once you know one thickness, then you can know it because you just run the clock. You just run the cycle. It goes from 8% to 4% to 0% to 16% to 8%. You know, it just goes through the cycle. So again, they just keep talking like there's a magical equation, and it's this mysterious magical equation. There's no magic to math. Math is just variables. You put the variables in and you can understand, because the equation can expedite the process of you know, figuring out some future time variant implication. And so that the variable can be time, the variable can be velocity, the variable can be acceleration. Lots of different things can be the variables that you know or that you don't know. But that's all it is. It's just telling you that there's variables that decide everything. Okay, your mass and what hits you and what's in your way, and those are all going to be something that's going to decide the equation. But these equations aren't magical. You don't just say, hell, I have the Schrodinger equation, now I can figure out anything. No, it's going to take you a long time to figure it out. You know. So anyway, it's just so bullshit. Anyway, so he doesn't define a real problem. So go ahead, give me a real circumstance. Show me a real circumstance, you know, where you have a number of charges, and then show how the Schrodinger equation is so much faster than just doing the geometry. Just doing the algebra itself. Show me an example of the Schrodinger equation in action solving a problem. And I'll show you, like I said, other physicists using other math to come up with the same exact answer. Alright, anyway. Just such bullshit. And show that you do have the basic grasp of quantum mechanics. So again, he's just basically saying, look, quantum mechanics is math. No, quantum mechanics is a theory. At least Sean Carroll has the balls to admit that. It's a theory, okay? And you all have different theories about how it functions. Sean Carroll's theory is that a new universe is created every time a bit of force hits a bit of matter. There's a new universe created. Every single time. Okay, and now that sounds preposterously silly, but whatever. All right. So at Dolan, just because QM has a theory, okay, so again, it is a theory and it's not a consistent theory. All the physicists have a different theory of quantum mechanics. All right, but the basic theory is that we know there's outcomes. So it's just that, look, you have a theory of dice rolling, right? I have a theory of dice rolling. My theory of dice rolling is that the dice start in a certain position, they move through space, they hit objects, and it changes their angles, but it's all conserved. All the energy is conserved, and all the rotations are caused by mechanical structures hitting each other. Okay, real forces involved, electrons hitting electrons, all of that stuff happens, and that decides the fate of the two dice. There's no probability. There is an inevitability. And if I start with a certain look of a dice and I throw them in exactly the same circumstance, if I can make a machine that moves the dice exactly the same each time, and I start with different faces, then I'll get different faces as outcome, and I'll break the probability. I'll break any idea that it's random, because it's never random, because nothing is random in the universe. It's a conservative universe, not a random universe. You can't put A, B in, okay, and get W out. Doesn't happen. Shit. Anyway. Just because QM has a theory that functions in terms of predictions. Well, again, it doesn't really function in terms of predictions. It doesn't really predict anything. It doesn't predict that glass, okay, when you polish it, its reflective index changes. It didn't predict that. We discovered that, and then we put the fact of that happening into the equation. Again, we didn't predict that dice get randomized by throwing them. No, it's a fact that they do that. Okay, that there's a synthetic fact that they are the amount of influences are so dense that the influences counterbalance each other, and you essentially end up with a result that doesn't have any consistency. That is randomized. It's not random, it's randomized. And look, that's even proven by our own computer science, because we can't make a perfect random generator. The reason why is because there's no such thing. We can only synthesize random, and you can see the fact that it's fake when you're doing something that goes to the depth of decimal points. Then you can see the lack of randomness. You can see that happen in some simulations where the fact that there is no real random means that our random generator is a little flawed, and then you'll end up seeing patterns in something that's supposed to be random. Because we can't synthesize random. We can only simulate it imperfectly. All right. Let's see. Show that you do have a... Okay, we did that. So where was I? I guess somewhere in here. Let's see. QM has a theory that functions in terms of predictions. That doesn't mean that the theory is correct in its assertions. Again, the theory of dice rolling, that says there is a mechanical process that angle in, angle out, all of that kind of stuff is at play, and there's no woo. That's a theory. Now, their theory is, no, it's a woo theory. Okay, they say that in the dice, I don't throw them into space because they're not in any space. They're not in any location. They, they're, as soon as I allow them to move, I've lost all reference to what they are and how they are. And everything they hit is not any angle in, angle out laws anymore. Only in the end, somehow it magically all adds up to some retraceable step where I could say, yes, it was, because there will be a path that led to the result, but no, at no circumstance. So they're saying that as the dice are hurling through space, they know that they're going to cheat the angle by 70% here, but then they'll cheat it by 30% over here, and that'll add up to 50%, and and that somehow it all adds up because somehow it knew ahead of time what the outcome was going to be. I mean, that's how bad their physics is. That's how unscientific it is. All right. It's just a set of probability equations. It's not a set of probability equations. It's the very idea, again, of there isn't any such thing as probability. There's only randomizing. Okay, there's only this ability to make an outcome uncertain because of the number of variables you've introduced, and the variables will disguise, okay, effects that work out for case-specific problems. Whatever. So again, I'm just saying the simple truth is that everything they're talking about is just like the dice table, or just like the roulette wheel. It's just as mechanical, and it just happens to be in a universe that we can't see the wheel turning and we can't see the little ball bouncing. But they're doing it, they're saying, you know, and they're using the fact that we can't see it to say, no, it's all random. Nothing really hit anything. Nothing really did anything. It's just some probability equation. It's not a probability equation. When light goes through the double slit, okay, there's a photon that goes right through the middle. There's a photon that goes right by the edge. They go in different locations, and that's why they have a different outcome. It has just nothing to do with saying, no, it's just random. It can go anywhere in there. And the diffraction gradient proves the point. Because the diffraction gradient, none of it's randomized. The photons actually do travel to specific locations, because that's why the image of whatever you put into the diffraction gradient ends up being projected at the locations. You can't project images by randomizing photons. So it disproves Feynman's random theory. All right. Doesn't mean that the theory... Okay. The point I'm making, is even if what you wanted Gary to do was done, it still would not clear the actual premise that the theory of QM fundamentally operates is incorrect. The theory can't be consistently applied, as I just pointed out with the slit experiments, the single slit. There's no explanation for why the photon splits in two. None. So there's no reason to think it turns into some two wave functions. Two. Just two, not 7,068,000 trillion. No, two wave functions. Anyway. It's amazing that everybody acts like every aspect of QM is 100% when even the leaders in the field have completely different fundamental interpretations. Fundamentally different theories. So, you know, they call them interpretations, and it's just a lie word, right? They're not interpretations. They're fundamentally different theories. Multiverse is fundamentally different than photons have radar, which is fundamentally different from photons are not in any one position at any time. They're in supersymmetry, and they're what's the word? You know, the one they keep blowing, superposition, and that they randomly fall out of their superposition. They randomly do it. Okay, from multiverse to collapse of everything in between. Yes, it's just a preposterously undefined pile of mush, and that they'll say it's the most proven theory in the history of mankind. Well, which one is proven? Which theory of function is proven? Okay, how and why would that be the case in a hard science? Why such drastic and diverging opinions at all? That's right, if they had great evidence, then why is it so murky? Oh, it's right, because they don't have great evidence. They have incredibly weak indications of. And yet they'll say things like Professor Lewin, it's nail-in-the-coffin evidence that light is a wave. No, it's nail-in-the-coffin evidence that your theory is inconsistent. That's what the diffraction gradient shows you. That's what polarizing films show you, is that your theory is lacking. The fact that you can't rationally explain why, if I put another filter in, you know, this way, to the filters going this way and this way, I put one in going this way, all of a sudden I get more light out. They don't have any rational explanation. I would claim clearly it's because all that is actually established as a fact is fundamentally working set of predictive mathematics. Well, again, I'm saying it doesn't predict anything. It formalizes what we already know, and it formalizes it retardedly. Again, there's no, I can predict that if I throw two dice into a Rube Goldberg machine, that I'm going to have an equal likelihood of getting snake eyes, or, 3, 4, and some numbers will come up more times because you can make them in more different ways. So it's not about what number comes up, it's what faces are showing. And that the odds of any two particular faces combining is going to be exactly the same because I've randomized the outcome by having enough variables influencing the outcome. And it's a perfectly mechanical though. I know that each time, if I take the dice and give them to tennis players, and the tennis players just bang them back and forth off their rackets, right? I know there's no superposition. The dice didn't get into a superposition to decide which way they were going or what their effect is going to be. I know that the outcome is directly related to how many times they got hit by the paddles, how thick the air was they were flying through. It has a real physical reason. And all they're doing to you is saying, in every case where it's not as obvious as something as big as a dice, all the little things, no, it's not like that. It's magic instead. It's that bad. All right. You claim clearly is because all that is actually established as a fact, functionally working set of predictive mathematics on poorly understood and difficult to observe physical mechanics. Yeah, so exactly. The smallest things in the universe are doing all the magical things because we can't see them. So because we can't actually measure where a photon is without fucking it up royally, they're going to claim it doesn't have an actual position. I mean, it's such nonsense. Nobody rational denies that QM has achieved a functionally working set of predictive mathematics. Well, I do deny that, frankly. It's all hype. I've never seen them solve any equation to a real answer. They don't even do it when they do Einstein's famous gravity math. I've never seen it solve for Mercury. I've never seen somebody go from the equation to the actual statement that this is what Einstein's relativity factor is. I've never seen somebody solve for that. They always just say, and then you add Einstein's relativity factor. How many times do you see equations done where all they do is derive the equation, then come up, well, it's E divided by C multiplied by 2x pi r squared. There's no physical answer. Okay. And when they do it, like with the two slit experiments, they find that, oh yeah, the results don't match what you actually see the experiment doing. The actual locations don't have that much light, or they aren't right. And as further out you go, the more inaccurate it becomes because their theory is wrong. All right. But that's not the point. Well, then you shouldn't have said it. What QM had not achieved is a actual mechanical theory. Well, it doesn't have any physical mechanism with any rigor outside said model. Well, obviously, superposition is an extraordinary claim. Claiming that something isn't in one position in space and time is an extraordinary claim. And it should come with something at least ordinary in terms of evidence. And frankly, the exterior claims based on the model are so counterintuitive, superstitious, and on the face value unscientific. Well, they're unscientific because they're unproven, and that's the essential part. There's no good reason to believe, like with religion. Okay, if the claims that are pushed by QM are true, then why even have a science? Logic is dead. Well, anyway, I, for one, am not convinced of multiverse or any other woo yet. We are throwing real skepticism and evidence based on facts to the wind. Yes, because that's all they have is wind. All they have is they can mock me, they can ridicule, they can talk duty talk on my videos, they can do all kinds of things, but what they can't do is answer a single fucking question I ask. Do you believe that a beam splitter creates two equal beams of photon? Do you? And if you do, you're an idiot. Yeah, fact. Want some fries with that salt. Another one who just won't debate with you won the internet. Won the internet? Oh, on the internet. Get a job for real. Well, why don't I say that to these physicists? Get a real job. Do some real physics somewhere. All the talking heads are goofballs. They all have honorary positions. Their tenure. Yeah. So they can just goof off for free. Um, so whatever thing too. Fuck you. Oh, another one he has to even throw in. Let's see what else he says. At AB Science. Let's see. Among the YouTube philosophers Gary used to talk to, yell at, he's known for the moniker of DraftScience. Well, gee, that's just too brilliant, right? Wow. See, that's all they have. Why don't you answer the question thing, too? Do you really think a beam splitter creates two equal beams of light? Identical beams? Also, this guy was, or probably still is, a Holocaust denier, so that's just an absolute lie, so we're done there. I mean, that's just such a fucking lie. Amazing. So, anytime anyone applies any reasoning to any claims made by anybody, they're a denier. I mean, it's just so fucking amazing. Nobody. Everybody can just exaggerate everything all the time. As long as it's what you agree with, right? That's it. You're just propagandists. You are the fucking Nazis. Nazis use lies, okay, to defend their actions. It's exactly what you're doing. Alright. Life sucks, you are stupid. Yeah, we know he's stupid, so nothing to see there. Alright. The ending of this video is precious. It may be self-aggrandizing. Oh, I think this is the one. Yeah, frankly. So, they end the comment by saying, don't read this comment aloud online. The whole point I'm making is all these unaccountable people. They do all this output, but they don't do any, they can't take it. So they can do lots of critiques, but they can't be critiqued. That's one of the problems I'm describing, and here you are right in that description doing exactly what is kind of violating the principle. People resent me well enough, and isn't that part of the fight? So what? How is this idea that I don't read what you say, how does that protect you from the reality? You think you get to say it without any accountability? Sorry, that's just too. You gotta play. You gotta. You don't like the heat. Stay out of the kitchen. I'm saying that to a woman. But whatever. Grow some balls. But yeah, no, you're not gonna make comments and then pretend. But nobody can get to me. Well, yeah, they can. And what's the difference? Somebody reading your comment or me reading your comment? How exactly is there a difference? And again, if you want to just say something privately, oh yeah, I agree with you, they're all suckheads. Well, you can send me an email. Oh, I agree with you, they're all suckheads. And guess what? I won't give a shit because yours is an unqualified opinion. First, you have to prove to me that you know what you're talking about before I could care what you're saying. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's just... This is so difficult. So Dick Dawson. So he's one of these people, frankly. I took a look. He does these stupid rooms with the little... He's part of the shill thing. Which, great. Please, debunk me, shills. Please, show me how smart you are. Destroy me. Let me see you do it with any integrity at all. Yeah. Let's see just how little integrity you will show in your effort to show I'm wrong. Okay, I personally would love to see you and AB have a moderated discussion. Frankly, I don't think it needs to be moderated, except for the fact that, sure, if he wants to have a discussion based on some silly premise that I've spent the last 10 years watching Professor Lewin videos, watching Harvard videos, watching Yale physics videos. I've watched more two-slit experiments, I'm claiming, than anybody on Earth. I've watched them all. And he just sits there and says something stupid like, I don't know what I'm talking about. No, I'm the one who's actually looked at the experiments. I've played the videos. And you just pretend none of that took place? I mean, that's just such bullshit. Alright, anyway. I would love to see you in a moderated discussion on these topics. Yes, well, if he could stay on the subject, that would be really cool. Okay, I think you both have that nice, calm style. Well, that's not exactly true. but I certainly don't have the Photoshop style. I certainly don't have, I'm going to waste my time, you know, critiquing your basement style. That would lead to a great conversation. I thought it would have been possible, frankly. I mean, what are we really discussing? Okay, we're going to take apart some of these assertions made by physics and just point out how, well, bent space is kind of an empty answer. I mean, it's Tesla. I mean, even Tesla's answer is so silly, right? I mean, Tesla's counter argument is space has no properties. It just has attributes. I mean, this is how irrelevant and insane it is. I mean, Tesla's right to say, what the hell are you talking about? Space isn't supposed to be something that has abilities. It doesn't have arms and legs. What are you talking about? Space moves objects. I mean, that's just so bogus. But then his counter argument is just insane in the sense that, well, it doesn't have any properties, but it has attributes. It makes things happen, but it doesn't move its arms to make things happen. You know, it just mental telepathy or something. I think you both have have a think. If you decide it's something you are interested in, as I've stated, I will even pay people, okay, if they do really have something to put on the line, like their integrity, their degree, their standing in the world, I'll even pay them, okay, to debunk me. So if they can show that they have some credibility, like more than 200 views per video or something, you know, some kind of meaningful person in the physics community, I will pay you proportional to your talking head status. So proportional to your popularity, I will pay you to try to debunk me. So yes, I'm certainly interested. I'll talk to anybody. Anybody. It's, you know, all they have to do is speak a little bit of English and make some kind of argument that doesn't involve their poo. So if they can talk about something other than how often they go to the bathroom, I'll talk to them. Okay, let me know. We can set it up and enjoy what I think would be a great show. Yeah, I think it'd be a great show too, because like I said, for every question you force me to answer, I get to ask a question and force you to answer. Yeah, so I like that very, very much. But where it'll all fail is in the basic argument that you can't tear apart something you don't understand. And frankly, none of you people are going to be willing to pay enough attention to watch maybe an hour of my content to get the idea that I know what I'm talking about. I've spent a lot of time developing this theory and it works. Okay, the only way Gary will have a calm, polite conversation if somebody was with a tranquilizer dart standing just off stage. So again, there's absolutely no, so this is shower pooper. There's absolutely no evidence of that. So 95% of all the interviews I've ever done are online conversations. We're hugely successful. Some of them are legendarily important to people, and they found them incredibly stimulating and interesting. So this is just such a lie, right? The only time it turns into something else is if you're talking to one of these shower in the poo people who will never stay on the subject. So, poo in the shower people. So we can hide that user. The baby that science aborted. Professor finds their inner cosmic theory. Mathematics community banishes him away. Professor finds inner cosmic theory. I don't know what that means. Mathematics community banishes him away. I have no idea what that means. Oh my God, that was hilarious. The other guy deserves much better. Okay, I think we already decided that wasn't a meaningful enough comment to give a shit about. So, alright, so let's play a little bit of this. I mean, these sympathetic characters, you know, a lot of these guys are engineers. They've spent some time getting electrocuted. They've played with stuff. But, I mean, again, it's this philosophical motivation that they want to prove God. And you know, their motivations are where the flaw is they haven't really thought about the theory, okay, and its unworkability in the real world, because we know it's not how energy doesn't just happen. Energy requires energy. Energy in to get energy out. Because energy is movement. So you have to put movement in to get movement back out again. And you know, all these free energy people think you're going to find that easy. Some other place where the energy was put in and stored. And you're not going to find it in any form better than, you know, compressed natural gas and oil and even coal. But, you know, oil most importantly. It's an incredibly potent amount of pressure, okay, energy in that's been stored for us to take advantage of. And you're not going to find anything better than that except for the splitting of the atom stuff. And obviously the splitting of the atom or the combining of atoms requires physical structures that we're not capable of building, you know, responsibly.
Watching the video in YouTube, the same YouTube video has changed. They cut part of the explanation and they replace it with bogus explanation, which is just, you know, when you're looking at a YouTube.
So again, there's so many YouTube videos and so many. So you want to know how a transformer, you know, the ones the electric company uses, works. Now, yeah, maybe you're not going to find a perfect schematic. It's probably, you know, proprietary information. Different companies want to, you know, be able to make a transformer that takes more heat or does this or does that. So you're not going to get an exact schematic.
Right, the video is Hollywood, literally Hollywood. When any government explanation is Hollywood.
So, you know, more just nonsense statements about it. Every government explanation is Hollywood. It's a complete nonsense. Government made some great educational films in the past. I just watched an Air Force video on cutting crystals, you know, for radios. Solid information all the way through.
It's not true. It's a lie. I mean, and people don't believe what a lie is. Well, you know,
a lie might as well be when you don't know, when you're ignorant and you start just pulling crap out of your ass as explanations. It might as well be a lie because you know you have no reason to argue for invisible ducks any more than invisible possums or invisible wildebeest or invisible hippopotamuses. All you're doing is saying, "Oh, it's an invisible something." That's all. That's, you know, that's your argument essentially. The magical magic makes the magic magical.
When does the government really come out and said, "Hey, I'm going to help you save the world"? They don't.
That's not the government's job. Okay, is to help a bunch of people with wacky ideas implement wacky ideas. So again, we already know Tesla got a ton of money from entrepreneurs who thought they could get some money back on the deal. Because he would do something useful, and he did nothing useful, and they lost all their money, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, it's a written story. He had his chance to prove his theory, and all he proved is that electricity burns big holes in the ground.
Dude, they don't have any intention of saving nobody except their own self, because
there's just more bullshit accusations that you won't prove with any evidence. Go show me the government employee who's doing this conniving and this... we have to hide the truth and all that. Go ahead, show some. They probably live next door to you. You could find one. Go interview him and talk to about and ask him, why are you conspiring against us? Why are you lying and cheating and stealing? No, I mean, the better argument can be made is, why are you getting a gigantic paycheck for doing almost next to nothing?
Using son of a bitch. You know, it's just like the fucking Trudeau we have. You know, it's just like, you know,
I guess that's a Canadian thing or something, the Trudeau they have. Yeah, politics, that's right. Unfortunately, liars win. All right, and, you know, dumbass flat earthers and dumbass crop circles, it's just as bad, right? You'll vote for, people vote for that shit. The same people voting for your wacky bullshit are going to vote for other wacky bullshit. You're the cause of the problem, not the solution.
Lying thief, they should be fucking put to death.
Yeah, I agree. Frankly, we ought to have some kind of contest to say, look, prove it or lose it. Okay, let's have a court of reasonableness, and everybody has to show up in the court and make their argument of why this horse shit that you keep claiming that there's this free energy out there. Yeah, I almost got it. My machine almost does it, or kind of a little. Well, okay, it doesn't do it at all, but I know it will someday. Yeah, you should be shot. Okay, because you've had plenty of chance to do this shit. You have plenty of chance. It's free energy. Why can't you? Oh, you can't find the free energy? Come on.
The only solution for those people. But I find out people have no balls.
Yes, that's right. The human race needs to be culled. Okay, so people have no balls, he says. Okay, so I just thought this was hilarious.
The majority of people have so little balls, actually, they can't even have kids. And some have kids.
I don't know if you have a statistical evidence of that fact. I mean, I would say it sort of looks like that. They certainly can't have kids that, look very functional. Most of them are autistic and shit now, right? They all have some kind of Asperger's, or I have attention deficit disorder. That is, I like to wank and watch TV. Yes, so do I.
I don't know who the hell, because it's not their fucking kids. They have no balls. It's got to be the neighbor's fucking kids.
Well, where did he get the balls? It's like alien balls. Do you think a whole bunch of aliens invaded to have big giant balls and then make retarded humans? Is that how you think it's working? No, they're the same retards watching your videos and going, oh yeah, free energy. Oh yeah, way cool, man. I mean, we have energy so dirt cheap. When you think about how little you pay for how much you use, I mean, it's an incredible amount of power that we're getting incredibly cheap. And they want it, but they want it cheaper.
Okay, they have no fucking balls. So, I mean, and the reason I say that again, people have no balls, is people thought I was going to get shot and beat up and stuff like this, saying people are cowards. But I'm still fucking alive. 3 years.
Oh, so amazing, huh? Amazing that no one goes out of their way to waste their time whacking loony, right? What are they going to get for it? I mean, frankly, they win some big prize or something. What's the big victory they get? Except, CSI might find their fingerprint and they end up in jail.
Years later, that's a pretty good proof. We're living in a coward society. Because...
So he's saying there's proof of cowards is that no one's killed him. I mean, that kind of logic is just so pitifully bad. I'm sure there's been lots of people who have argued with you and pointed out how, well, you're not getting it. I mean, you plug the transformer in and there's energy going in the transformer, and that's why the ground wire is sparking. Because you put energy into the transformer. Don't put energy in the transformer and it won't spark anymore. Duh.
If someone ever badmouthed me like this, I would have fined the motherfucker and I would break his jaws.
So that's kind of interesting, right? So all I have to do is badmouth you and you'll come to my house and break my jaws? Wow, that might be cool, right? As an experiment. He'll actually do that? Cool. You're a duty head. Does that count as a bad mouthing?
Or at least an attempt to do this. But guess what? It's not happening.
I don't see you getting off your chair and running over here to beat me up.
Most people, when they recognize me in the street, they shake my hand. So, I mean, I never had anybody so far come to me and screaming at me and stuff like this.
Well, move into my neighborhood and I'll give it my best shot.
So it tells you how cowards the society became. It's just, I'm trying to fix a problem, a lie. And
yeah, so make a video pointing out the lie, and I'll point out how that's not a lie. And then make your counter argument. And your counter argument will be irrational mush. You have no knowledge of how the thing really works. You think there's this resonance thing. Resonance isn't just a thing, So, yeah, he has a whole video on it. This is so simple. And, you know, I didn't know how simple it was. Like, again, the word resonance bothered me a couple of years ago, but it became so obvious that it's just about energy in and energy going in at the right time. So it's as simple as the pendulum argument, realistically. You know when the pendulum's moving towards you, if you put energy in, you're going to take energy out of the pendulum system. It's not going to swing as much. But if I put the energy in when the pendulum's moving the same way, then I add energy to the system, okay? And so then the system can get bigger and bigger and bigger because the energy is going into the system rather than defeating the system. And that's all resonance is, really, and harmonics just end up being something kind of obvious, right? Is that you can do that as a wave, or you can do this as the wave, or you can bisect it again and do, you know, bisections of that. In the sense, you can have these 3 waves, something like that. And it just has to do with this motion, though. It has to do with the fact that when you're putting the energy in, this is going up and down at a rate. So it moves a certain amount of distance, okay? There's an amount of distance it moves, and then it moves that distance at a velocity. And you can change those two things. You can make the distance shorter and the velocity higher. You can rearrange those in all kinds of ways, and there's an arrangement that creates a symmetry in the system. That is, the energy is symmetrical, okay, in terms of its movement back and forth, and the symmetry is identical to the energy you're putting in. So you're moving it faster in the direction it's already moving, not moving it down, right? And so you're never destructively adding energy. So it's essentially just like the pendulum. You're adding the energy when you're in the up motion, so you're making the velocity faster, and vice versa. And then you can put in a higher frequency of energy, a higher pulses into the system, and as long as those higher pulses all come when this harmonic is in this motion, it's going this way, right? Instead of, this would be the counter swing. And so if you're putting the energy in 2 pulses while it's going this way, right, then you're adding energy to the system. But that's all it is. Again, it's just about, I mean, in this case, you can use the word destructive interference, but it's really just that. It's just about adding or subtracting from the energy of a system. And that's resonance, is where you're adding to the system's, the up and down motion that's causing the wave. And again, I'll just point out, for the sake of those people that need to have it pointed out, the speed that you move has to be faster than the speed of the wave for you to add energy. Just like sound, you have to move something faster than the speed of sound to initiate the wave.
People look at you like you're an idiot.
That's another one for AB science, right? Do you understand that concept, that all sound is essentially a sonic boom? That any time sound is created as a mechanism where atoms bang into each other at the right speed, that the speed that went in has to be faster than the speed of sound to initiate that vibration. Do you know that?
Right? But they're too fucking coward, and they're whining, you know, please, please, our power is so expensive, or the fuel is so expensive, we can't afford to live.
So again, it's so cheap. You know, you're getting so much for, frankly, so little. And yeah, so that's really an idiotic argument people are making, that somehow it's the price of energy that's the problem. So again, if you gave them free energy, what would they do with it? They would burn us to a cinder, you know, because they just squander it.
They whine to hear themselves whining, because, you know, they don't do nothing about it. I mean, I'm just one person. You know, I can reach out and touch, you know, maybe, you know, a couple of 100,000 people. What about those couple of 100,000 people?
Well, then what are you complaining about? That's pretty good reach, frankly. So you can say something to hundreds of thousands of people, and frankly, you're not saying enough to motivate anybody to do anything. That's your bad.
Or the rest of the population to get off their fucking ass. Get out of your fucking ass and do something instead of whining about it. Go.
Like Tesla did, right? Tesla got off his ass and did something, right? He dug ditches for what, 6 months, and the rest of his life he spent pretty much in his ivory tower.
Go out there, fucking up. I never see fucking 300,000-400,000 people walking in a march toward the fucking power plant. Said, what the fuck are you charging us for?
So again, more crying about something that you have no business crying about. You're paying for the infrastructure. You're paying for all those electric lines and all those telephone poles and all the copper and the aluminum now. Different things they're using to do it, and the big turbines and the oil that had to be burned to turn the turn. That's what you're paying for, and you're getting a pretty good deal, frankly. Shouldn't be whining about that.
I gave everybody the clue how to check your house on the ground line. Why the fuck we have amp going on the fucking ground line?
Well, there's been about, I don't know, 7,000 videos on YouTube that'll explain it to you. That's because everything's leaking through all the other appliances everybody has plugged in. You can get to the from the common, you can get to the hotline, okay, through the devices. And so that's just leakage through the devices. Like, we'd like to say that every circuit adds up to 0, but it's not a perfect 0. There is some leftover potential from ground. And so, yeah, there's a little tiny bit of leakage, but it's actual real energy. It's not fake energy. You're actually siphoning energy off of the main, okay? It's not free energy. If everybody stole the energy that was from their common to the real ground, if everybody attempted to steal that energy, the power plants has to make more energy, okay? They'd have to charge you for it because they'd have to generate that electricity. It's not free. And it's not wasted in the sense that in a regular circuit, it's not a problem. It's only when you create your fake pathway that it's a problem. When there's no fake pathway to ground, it's not a problem.
No one want to fucking talk about it.
I'm sure. There's tons of people that want to talk about it, okay? Electric Boom made a video about it, okay? And sort of explained exactly what I just explained. I mean, you're going to pay for it either way. It's not free energy. It's not free leakage. It's theft. You're just stealing the electricity based on how imperfect the grounds are.
It was taboo, all right? Because they're fucking cowards. So that's why I'm kind of getting away a little bit from YouTube. First thing YouTube is a fucking...
So that makes you a coward. I gotta run away. I can't take the heat. I'm complaining a lot. I don't know what to do. Blah, 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 blah. It sounds like you're whining. It sounds like you're the nutless fella. Sorry. I hate YouTube. I hate the environment. I hate the people. I hate the whole fucking thing. But I ain't gonna run away from it.
Piece of shit. And it's not two way about it. Google, same fucking thing. They're just fucking... relentless fucking idiots.
Mm-hmm. Yes, capitalists is what they're called. It's a marketing company. Yeah. And all they care about is making money off of idiots. All right. So anyway, till the next time and such, right? That's enough of that, right? We could jump ahead and see what he gets on about here.
Tell them what to bring.
Oh, now he's got the fucking thing running.
If you don't tell people what kind of power you're manufacturing, how the fuck they know how to use it properly?
Yes, he's manufacturing power, making it out of non-power. Bullshit. I mean, it's just, there's no real point, right? Earthenergy.org. Yeah, sure. Yeah, the Earth's full of it. Yeah, right. I mean, it's a fact that there's things in the Earth, okay? You can take advantage of the pressure that's in there, the energy stored in the Earth. The Earth has a lot of heat in it. Yeah, you could steal some of that. But you're stealing the energy. You're not making energy. Anyway, it's just no point there. They believe their God Tesla was correct, that there's just stick a pole in the air and get your free pole wobble. You know, whatever. Just horse shit. All right. So, enough. Yeah, I feel like it's enough. So some of this I want to reply to. I haven't watched this yet, but it's probably going to be really irritating. It's okay to be smart. You know, anyway, so just a bunch of goofy, gimmicky stuff. But humans are smart. Why are babies so unsmart? See, I think the right answer to this question is really interesting because of the implications. You know, see, the big difference between Cro-Magnon man and Neanderthal was first the diets, vegetarian versus meat eater, and they matured insanely fast compared to regular humans. So they were sort of more like monkeys in the sense that they were born a lot more capable of walking and doing things. So so you can see that in their maturation was slowed down. So the difference between the modern man and the less modern man, the big difference was really in terms of the speed with which they maturated. A 9-year-old of one would be a lot different than a 9-year-old of the other in terms of its maturity, physical functions, size. And that's critical to this whole idea of maximizing the brain space. That is, taking the brain that we have and being able to utilize it to do language and the complexities of having all of these neurons to a hard drive. It's like hard drive space, and we have to start with a bunch of hard drive space that's unwritten, where, you know, Neanderthals, the space was mostly written on already, okay, with pre-programmed reflexes. And the idea is to maximize it by creating an operating system that first learns what's important for the environment it lives in, instead of having a bunch of archaic how to swim programs or how to wiggle your tail programs, a bunch of programs that were archaic and we don't even use anymore and all that kind of stuff. So it's just this maximizing of the computing space. And so that's why we have to be born dumb, is that we need to take time to acquire prioritize the space on the hard drive. There's only so much of it, and to maximize its use, you have to have a really efficient operating system. And so that's sort of like the early days of computing, you know, where, you know, the operating systems were profoundly inadequate and inefficient. And as it got more and more efficient, the computer got more and more functional, could do more and more things, and then, yeah, you know, we increased the processor space, obviously, too. And I'm just saying, one of the key things you can understand is, you know, what did we sacrifice, you know, for this? You can see it in things like our sense of smell is so much lower than all the other mammals, duller. You know, and it doesn't seem logical. Why would we lose a sense? You know, why would a sense become less articulate and less sensitive? That's something you wouldn't want to lose. Well, obviously it's a good thing to lose if you're replacing that with vocabulary, the ability to do symbolic representations of events and objects, to create pattern recognition that is learned. Huge advantage. And all of this you can sort of understand in the sense that we didn't slowly get intelligent. We got big potential and no ability to use it, right? I mean, huge potential. You could take out a guy from 100,000 years ago, a person living completely almost like a monkey, not doing anything much more advanced than sticking a stick in and stealing termites. Not much more advanced than a freaking chimpanzee. Yet you could take that primitive man and put him in give him a grammar school education, and he'd learn, and he'd be capable because he could do the vocabulary thing. Even though he didn't have a language yet, he was capable of it, like Helen Keller, in a way. She had the capacity, but she had no mechanism to acquire language. And so until they developed a mechanism where she could acquire language, she was lost. Anyway, but I bet their answer won't be that. It'll be some stupid bullshit. So I haven't watched it, just because I know it's going to disappoint me. It's all very disappointing. Everything on the air, it's just so disappointing. But anyway, enough of that. Till next time and such. So forth and whatnot. I don't think there's anything else. Yeah, I guess that's enough. It's more than enough, but you know, sorry about that. But reality takes time to explain, you know, and it takes time to explain why something's not working or why something's broken. It's, you know, saying it is easy. Explaining why is not easy. Anyway, till next time.